Good morning, everyone. This is Leanne from Of Love and Shiplap and the founder of Sublimation graphics and tutorials here on Facebook. If you're joining us on YouTube, be sure to come join our Facebook group. The video link is at the end of this, or the group link is at the end of this video and in the comments. If you're joining us on Facebook, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you can easily find our tutorials after they are live. You can also find our tutorials under the units section, which we're working on reorganizing. Today I'm going to be talking to you guys about one of the options for sublimation on cotton. I know that little phrase gets a lot of people excited. Before I go into that, I just want to reiterate that sublimation directly on cotton is not possible. It's not possible because sublimation is a chemical process, and cotton is a non-porous natural fiber, while polyester is a porous man-made fiber. When it comes to dyeing cotton, it has to be a surface dye. That's why you can go and buy a RIT dye kit at Walmart and use that to make tie-dye shirts or dye your clothes or anything to that capacity that's made of cotton, but you can't use that same dye on something that's polyester. The holes in the polyester make it difficult or impossible, I guess, for surface dyes to have anything to hold on to. The way that sublimation works, if you're not really familiar or don't understand the process, is that when sublimation ink is heated at high temps, it converts to a gas. This is a chemical reaction. It then, that gas then floats into the pores of the polyester, which open up under the high heats and then become trapped as it cools. And just like that, you have dyed inside on a molecular level, which is what makes sublimation so cool. But it's also why you can't use it on anything that's cotton. When it comes to cotton solutions, there are just a lot of different options out there, whether it's the sublimation printable vinyl like Subliflex 202 from Forever Paper or Caesar Easy Subli. There are, different types of sprays. We're all very familiar with Sublifix out of the UK and dye press poly T that's out of the United States. And then, of course, there's powder coating. There's a couple of different types of papers, which we're going to talk about Subli-Light and Sublight glitter today, but there are a lot of different options on the market. It's really important that you pay attention to what people say in feedback about these different products. If you've watched my videos for a while, you know that I don't want you guys to go and buy things that are not going to work for you, because that's just a waste of money, and of course it leads to disappointment. For me, I always try and make sure that when I do videos, I really give you the pros and cons so that you're totally equipped before you make that purchase to make an educated choice on whether or not that item is going to be right for you. So today I'm talking to you guys about Subli-Light and Sublight glitter paper. Both of these are manufactured by Forever, and if you're not familiar with Forever, they are the largest specialty paper manufacturer in the world. They're based in Germany, and they have, I don't even know, I think close to 100 different types of paper, because they make paper for all types of printing. They have a large number of papers for white toner printers, primarily if you're using the Oki printers. And then, of course, they have some other papers out there, including these ones for sublimation. So Sublight and Sublight glitter are pretty cool. I think that they have so much potential, and I secretly hope that Forever will make a few changes so that they'll have more capabilities. But for right now, they do have some real limitations, and I want to make sure you guys understand exactly how they work and what they're best for. So first, let me show you guys the papers. You can see the glitter one is glittery, and then the other one just kind of looks like plain old paper. But what's unique about Subli-Light and Sublight glitter is that they have a polyester powder coat that is built into the paper. Now, when you print this with your sublimation printer, this is for sublimation ink only, the ink saturation activates that powder coat that's in the paper and then transfers onto your garment. It's a two-step pressing process, which is pretty easy, but it does move very quickly because you need to press within 60 seconds of taking your transfer off the printer. And then you have to peel as soon as it's done with the first press. And then you can go ahead and do the second step, which is the fixing step. And for that, all you need is parchment paper. Because of the weight of this paper, you don't need any kind of adhesive or tape, and you absolutely do not use any kind of adhesive spray with these papers. You will, really screw up your results if you do that. You can use tape if you want to, but I find that it's absolutely not necessary. to use tape, and you don't even need blowout paper because these are nice and thick, and that powder coat and whatnot absorbs that ink, so you don't have to worry about anything blowing out through the back either. So a few benefits there. So this paper is available in 8.5 by 11 or 11 by 17. You can find both papers in both sizes of each in different pack sizes on my website underneath Sublimation Supplies. My website link is www.ofloveandshiplab.us. I don't know the price point of these off the top of my head. I do know that if you were trying to do a large design on a shirt, you should easily factor in around $4 or $5 in the cost of the paper per shirt. Of course, if you're using a cotton shirt that only costs you $2, then that still keeps your price for your item relatively low, especially considering what you should be charging. Now, the most important thing, if you haven't paid attention to anything so far, please pay attention to this. Subli-Light and Sublight glitter transfer paper, in order for these to work, need ink saturation. This is dictated by your print settings, which I'm going to go over, but it's also dictated by your design. You cannot, I repeat, cannot use these papers for printing photographs to put on shirts, anything that's watercolor, and anything that has halftones or gradients. You have to have solid fill designs. It's great for basic logos. It's great for old SVG files that you have, things to that nature. The only thing you really have to watch out for is that little tiny script fonts and little fonts like that you might put a phone number on a chest pocket of a shirt. Things like that do not transfer all that great with this paper. Again, it needs that ink saturation. So if you're using a Sawgrass printer, there is a special VPM profile that's been created by Forever. And when you get the instructions for your paper, it actually will tell you that in there. If you're using an Epson printer, you want to print this on premium presentation matte because that's going to give you the most ink laydown with the high quality turned on and high speed turned off, and your image is always going to be mirrored. I am going to go ahead and put those print settings in the description so that way you can just, refer back to it later on. Another thing is that the instructions that come with these papers are very specific. Forever spends a lot of time trial and erroring to make sure that their instructions are exact. And if you follow them, you're going to have the best results, optimal results. But using these two papers does take a little bit of getting used to because they're not super straightforward. And I'm sure some of you who have used different types of cotton solutions have probably realized that's normally the case. You cannot use these on dark garments. They're specifically for light garments, and it does actually say that right in the instruction sheet right at the top. It tells you for light colored garments, cotton and cotton blends, not polyester. So let me just show you guys two shirts that I did in a previous demo. The first one is a cotton polyester blend. It's a George shirt from Walmart. And it has, this is the glitter, if you guys can see. And you'll see it's not like a pow in your face glitter the way that like Glitter HTV is. It's just like a nice pretty glitter. I actually really like it. And then I do have a 100% cotton Gildan shirt that I got from my local vinyl shop. And I just did the regular Sublight on that. This was done in a previous tutorial. Now, as I was saying, everything on here is solid. Solid wine ring, solid leaf, solid name. If you have seen my logo on some of my author logo on some of the other items that I've done in tutorials when I've actually made something for myself, then you know that my logo actually has a glow behind it. And that glow is designed to make it pop against the feather and the wine glass ring. And if you're wondering, that's what that is. It's a wine glass ring. So it's designed to pop against that, and I had to remove the glow for this. In terms of washability, because I know someone's gonna ask about that, this product has superior washability to just about everything else that's out there. It ranks right up there with Sublimation, with the premium white toner papers, and of course with direct to garment, all of those really high quality options for garment printing. It is very soft to the touch. That I can't even it honestly, it almost doesn't even feel real how soft it is. It's not completely indistinguishable because you can definitely tell that this has a feel to it that the regular shirt doesn't. I would say if you've ever gotten something printed direct to garment, and that like subtle feel that the ink has before it's been washed for the first time, that's what this feels like. So very thin, way thinner than screen print, way thinner than vinyl. If you're using a premium white toner paper, not just like a standard two-step paper, then that thin and stretched, that's very similar to this too. So it really is almost indistinguishable. It's really like when you feel it across it, it's not like it raises up or anything like that. It feels like it's one with the fabric. It just has a slight texture difference. These wash great. These have been washed a whole bunch of times. You wash on cool water inside out, and tumble dry low. I might sound confused, but that's just because I use a laundry service. So, cause I don't have a washer and dryer. So I had to like think about it for a second cause they do know what's supposed to be done, what ways. But it washes well and it has really good stretch, which is, if I can maybe get it close to the camera for you guys. You can see that it stretches, not like a ton, but I mean, it stretches with the fabric. The fabric is not designed to stretch some monumental amount, despite the fact that some people try and make it. All right. So I covered all the details and the drawbacks. And again, the special print settings, if you're using the Epson, that's premium presentation matte with high speed turned off, high quality turned on, and make sure your image is mirrored. And if you're using a Sawgrass printer, you're going to use that special VPN profile. Now the pressing process is very quick. So I'm going to go ahead and get us started on that. I'll click print and we'll switch you guys over to the heat press. We're going to have just about 1.5 minutes while our transfer is printing. Today I'm printing the transfer with my Epson Workforce 7710 using Printer Jack ink. While your transfer is printing, you can go ahead and pre-press your garment, and of course lint roll it just in case there's any fuzzies or hair or anything like that on there, because you don't want that to get underneath the Subli-Light or Subli-Light glitter transfer. I'm printing on the Sublight glitter because sometimes it has a few more issues than the Subli-Light, so I want to be able to kind of show those to you. I'm not going to demo both because the process is the same for both. Now you'll notice that when I just pressed that down, it required a lot of force. You want the maximum pressure that your heat press can get. You should literally be struggling. The next thing I'm going to do, because we do need to get this transfer, as soon as it's done printing, you need to get it onto your garment within 30 to 60 seconds. So I want to make sure I'm ready to go centered. So I took a piece of paper and just marked it with the width of the transfer, which is 7 inches. And I'm going to go ahead and measure and try and get my paper centered. And that way, as soon as we are ready, as soon as that transfer is done printing, I can just pop it on here. And I'm gonna just go ahead and set 2 different objects, the tape measure and the laser level, right there as my guide. One of the things that you wanna be careful of, especially if you're doing multiple designs using Subli-Light and Subli-Light glitter, is to make sure that this bottom plate is not too hot. If this is piping hot from repeated transfers, you're going to have a problem with the adhesion of the design. Now, full disclosure, before this finishes printing, I did say that this is a great way to use some old SVGs. I am using a mouse themed SVG today because I'm making this for my niece and she is obsessed with Mickey Mouse. Typically, I avoid all things that are copyrighted and trademarked, so always use anything, even if it's something that falls under the Angel Clause, for personal use. The Angel Clause allows you to use stuff for personal use. I do not know that this was covered under that because I got it several years ago and I have no way to check now. You always put yourself at jeopardy when you choose to use anything that is copyrighted or trademarked. So do that at your own discretion if you're willing to take the risk. I personally advocate not to do that. So just something to keep in mind. I do not own the rights to this. I did not make this. I do not know where it is available for sale. I don't have any of that information, so please don't ask. our transfer is just about done. And if I didn't reiterate it again, we are printing on the Workforce 7710 using printer jack ink with the Subli-Light, Sublight glitter transfer paper. We printed on the premium presentation matte setting, which lays down the most amount of ink, which is perfect for printing this because again, you need that ink saturation to activate the polyester powder coat that's in the paper. You print your image mirrored and with high speed turned off and high quality turned on. And again, if you have one of the Sawgrass printers, the Virtuoso Print Manager does have a special profile which you can download from Forever Paper for printing these two transfer papers. So this is what our transfer looks like. And I am very, very quickly gonna just trim it out so that we can get it on here. Again, you really do have to work quickly with these. And since I put my little markers here, I've already got that centered. You do not use any kind of adhesive spray. You can use tape if you really want to, but it's not really necessary because this paper is nice and thick. Whew. Once again, very, very firm pressure. Maximum pressure is literally what the instructions say. So there's two press stages to this. The first step is 30 seconds. I'm using 360 degrees. I have found this to be the best temperature for me. You'll notice that the instructions for this do come with a range of about 20 degree difference. So you want to trial and error to figure out your own. So when we pop this up, we're going to very quickly just rub it and then peel it while it is still hot. Quick, smooth, carefully. All right, let me put that there for a second. We still have a second step on that, but I'm going to see if you guys can see this. So see if I hold it really close, you can see the texture of the fabric in the paper. So the ink activates the layer. I know it's subtle, but you can see the difference between this silver part and the green part because this is the ink and this is where that polyester powder coat went onto the garment. And you can see those lines right there. That's all from your garment. All right. So it only activates where the ink is, but sometimes you might get a little extra of this glitter transfer in between tight spaces around letters. Now, it won't adhere to the fabric because there's no ink to activate that polyester powder coat and the adhesive that's built into the paper. So if you do find that you have a little spot in here or something, you can just peel it off with tweezers. All right. So I'll give you guys a nice close-up of that. It's almost perfect. Now I I knew that this design might be a little bit of a problem because of these little lines, but it actually did better than I expected. You do have to be careful of those finer details like that. All right, let me put this back up here so I can give you guys a better view of it. So overall, I got near perfect transfer. The only place I ran into an issue, like I said, was where we have these little lines. The finer details can be difficult using Subli-Light glitter. Subli-Light I don't really have a problem with, but Sublight glitter, I do notice that little fine details like this don't always transfer as well as we would like. I think the green did better just because it's darker. Again, ink saturation. So the second step to this is called the fixing step. By the way, overall, this looks great. I can notice this because I do this, but this is going to my niece and she's 3 and both her and her mother are not going to notice that. So like I said in the beginning of this video, you just want to keep in mind that there are some limitations to this and it does not work for all types of designs. It needs to have solids, no gradients, and not any super fine details. Just some things to keep in mind. All right, so we're going to put a piece of parchment paper on this and we're going to press this again for 30 seconds. This is called the fixing step. And once again, we're using that maximum pressure. I know I speak a little fast during the first part of this. It's because you do have to go so quickly with this, which is fine. Now the fixing step is designed to kind of push that that polyester powder coat better into the fabric to make sure it's totally adhered and improve washability. So as soon as we're done, we're going to very carefully peel off our parchment paper. Just keep in mind you can't really reuse this after, see we got a little ink on there. So plan that your parchment paper is one-time use, unless you fold it in half. I mean, if you fold it in half, then you can use it again. So while this is still hot, we're going to give this a nice little stretch. And it is very hot right now. Whew, hot. All right, so when we give this stretch, this is just going to help kind of adhere. It's going to improve the washability and stretch overall once this is cooled and after you've washed it a bunch of times. And then it's also improving the feel of this. So when we first take the transfer paper off, this has a thickness similar to screen print. That's when we first take it off before we do the step with the parchment paper. Now that we've done the step with the parchment paper, this is very thin to the fabric. I mean, you guys can kind of see that. See if I can get a good close-up of it stretching. Stretches nicely. This is also really good if you have designs that have negative space. So like the of the year words, that's negative space because there's no ink there. So just to give you a good idea. And that's it. This is now ready to go. In terms of washing instructions, you're just like most garments that we are creating, they want to be washed inside out with cool water, tumble dry low. Air dry is recommended. The Subli-Light and Sublight glitter has high washability, much better than white toner, much better than vinyl. And that is simply because of the way that it is, melded into the fabric. So this really is one of my favorite solutions. As I've said, and as I've demoed, it's not without limitations. It does take a little bit of trial and error to get used to. It definitely works a little better when you do designs that are smaller because it's easier to get that peel off fast. And with something even bigger like this, sometimes you run that risk of it cooling too quickly because you're trying to take that transfer off within the first 5 seconds of it being off the heat press. So just like that, I have finished this adorable shirt. And even though I didn't get perfect transfer on the red bow, it still looks great for this. So just something to keep in mind. So just to recap, this Subli-Light and Sublight glitter are available in my shop. Make sure that you take the time to trial and error and figure out the right temperature for you. And you can simply cut the sheets down into 8.5 by 11 sizes and print on them that way. That's probably one of the easiest ways to go about testing so that you're not wasting a bunch of paper at full size. And definitely make sure you practice. You want to make sure that pressure is right, that your bottom plate is warm but not super hot as if it was just pressed. You want to use the maximum pressure you can get. Peel that transfer off as soon as it is done pressing, and then do that second step with the parchment paper and make sure to give it a nice good stretch while it's still hot. You pretty much want to keep stretching it until it's completely cool. And as long as you wash it right, this has outstanding washability. It is very soft feel. If you have ever gotten something direct to garment printing, I would say that this feels like direct to garment before it's been washed. So it's very subtle, but you can still tell it's on there. And once this is washed, it's actually softer, a lot like Sublimation or direct to garment. So for those of you who are wondering how it feels, there is your answer. It's very subtle. And honestly, this is such a great product for kids' shirts, especially since finding shirts for youth sizes and toddlers and infants is very difficult to find them in high polyester count without paying, $6, $7 a shirt. I think that this shirt was like $3.94 from Walmart. So I hope that you guys have a great holiday and we will see you guys after Christmas. Thank you so much for joining us in one of these last minute tutorials. And again, you can order this paper on my website. If you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments. And of course, if you still haven't joined our group or subscribed to YouTube, be sure to go ahead and do that. Thank you once again for joining us, and we hope you have a very, very Merry Christmas.